What's up, guys? This is Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the overall market. Just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I'm saying as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link that's down below or use my QR code right here to sign up. If you sign up for Moomoo with the link down below and deposit $100, you're going to get $20 of free Nvidia stock. If you deposit $2,000 or more, you're going to get $50 worth of Nvidia plus a $100 cash reward. Deposits $10,000 or more to get $300 worth of Nvidia for free plus $100, or deposits $50,000 or more to get $1,000 of free Nvidia stock plus $100. You're also going to qualify for an 8.1% APY on uninvested cash, and the offer ends very soon. It ends in just about 7 days from now, so check out my link down below to sign up. Anyways, let's talk about what's happening with the stock market. So I just want to mention that right now, SPY and the QQQ are still range bound. They're still consolidating, going back and forth between supply and demand, being very choppy. And that's the reason why I want to warn you guys about some key levels, because if we break one of these levels, there's going to be a big move coming. So on the SPY charts, for example, see the red rectangle up here? This is our supply zone. Basically, when you go back a couple of weeks, we were touching this rejected 3 times. We got this big, sharp rejection off that area before. So we need to clear that level. If we could clear past like 674, then yes, I think 675 plus is coming. We could be looking for a breakout higher. But if we do the opposite, if we lose 670, if 670 fails us, I think we could be dipping to about 664 to fill the gap below, because on the daily time frames, SPY and the QQQ still have these gaps down here. There's a gap all the way down here at 664. So that's going to be the more bearish case in case we get some kind of rejection. I think it's very important to be unbiased about the way in which we go about this and to watch our key levels. So I'm going to talk about the factors really affecting this, and I'll go into more detail. I also want to add that tech and the QQQ is looking a little bit weaker than SPY right now when you look at the setup. So I'll talk more about these in just a few minutes. Let's first talk about some news. So as a reminder, the market's in a very, very stagnant place. Okay, we have this government shutdown situation, which is very quiet, not really affecting the market way too much. We still have a lot of tension between the US and China when it comes to trade, but much of that has been priced in, and the market's not as phased by that for now. So just remember that. And then finally, we have other factors like earnings. The market's just getting ready for earnings season, and the big earnings are kicking off today as we have Tesla's earnings after market close. So there's not really much coming out for today in terms of our data. It's just crude data and very minor data. But as a reminder, we just had AT&T announce earnings this morning, and then after market close, we have Tesla and IBM. Tesla will be a big one. Tesla's going to be a big one for the week, so expect some volatility once that comes out. I think the market may react to that, so be ready for that as well. So with that being said, what else is going to happen? Let me just add on that there's still a lot of news coming out involving the U.S. and China's relationship. As you know, the U.S. depends on China for a lot of different products when it comes to soybeans and such. China also depends on the U.S. to some extent, but I just want to make it very clear that both of them do rely on one another, and they are, once again, major trade partners. So this whole dispute that's going on is not good for either economy, and we're waiting to see what ends up happening with some kind of deal. President Trump has mentioned he's been negotiating with India and China, and he wants to see a very, very fair deal very soon, especially once he meets up with Xi Jinping within a couple of weeks. So that's massive news once President Trump meets up with Xi Jinping. And I'm not really seeing much else that's too significant, at least on his end, unless he gives us more tariff updates. He also threatened a 155% tariff on China, unless we get some kind of deal. So we'll see how that goes, but that's what we're hearing so far from President Trump. The market isn't phased by his high tariffs because he already said that, look, his tariffs are not going to be sustainable. It's just a short-term negotiation tactic. He already made that very clear. That's what he's doing. And that's kind of like why the market is not really reacting too negatively. The market now knows that. So keep that in mind. Unless we get some kind of big update, the market's just stagnant, at least for now. One last thing, when it comes to major news around the world, I'm not really seeing anything too significant for the stock market yet. I've been looking through this. We just had Netflix announce their earnings. They did miss as a result of a dispute with Brazilian tax authorities. And that's pretty much it. There's nothing else too crazy on the news for today. So for now, we're just going to focus on the charts and break this down. So My warning about the way the market's moving is that there's a lot of chop. As of right now, there's lots of chop on SPY, the QQQ, and the others. And the problem with this is that if you're holding options, at least for the whole day, if you're holding like longer term options, this could really affect premiums, especially as there's going to be a theta decay. So be careful with those shorter term options and be very, very mindful of this chop that's going on. If this continues, if this persists for today, then of course it's going to be hurting premiums. But we need to see us break one of these levels to be bullish or bearish. And like I said before, there was a rising wedge set up on SPY, but as of right now, we're waiting to see if we could break 674, this red resistance. And I'm looking for 675 plus and a nice breakout to the upside. If we lose 670, though, this is going to be dumping to 664, I think, to fill that gap. But right now, we don't really have much of a direction. We're just trading sideways. So until we break one of those levels, it's just chop for now. We're just kind of chopping like this. I would like to see us fill that gap to 664 soon first, but we'll see about that. As of right now, we're choppy, so wait for confirmation and be very unbiased with this market. Now, the triple Q looks more bearish. It's a little bit more bearish than SPY. If we break 613, we could be breaking out higher, but notice that this resistance got two rejections. We got a sharp rejection off this supply zone, and we ended up retesting the same area, and now we're starting to reject. So break 613, we're bullish, but lose 610, and then we could be dipping back down towards 607, and then the gap fill back down towards 604. So the odds favor that gap fill to 604. There is a risk of some downside, so we'll just keep that in mind, especially as time goes on. That's going to be very, very key for how we end up moving, and we have to be very patient nonetheless. All right. But for now, the QQQ does favor a test of 610. If it doesn't hold, 604 could be coming. There is some downside risk. On the IW, we're making lower highs. Now, if we break and hold above 248, we're looking for a big bounce. But if we end up losing 245, we're looking for a dump back down towards 243. There is a gap at 243 to fill. So even if we bounce a bit, we could still turn back down and dip to like 243. So you want to be very mindful of that. On ES, we're also kind of like range bound right here. We're in the middle. If we could break past 67.80, we're looking for a big push higher. If we lose 67.50, we're going to be turning back down. We're in the middle for the time being, and we're just consolidating until we break one of these directions. Now, with this consolidation going on, there is a risk of us losing 67.50 to dip lower because of, not only this head and shoulders like pattern that's still present, we have not invalidated it yet on ES, but also because of, the overall trend right now. So right now, I'm not going to worry about that. Instead, I'm just going to focus on the levels. If we don't hold 67.50, then we're going to be dipping. But if we break 67.80, we could be looking for 6,800. For now, we're choppy, so we'll wait and see. But one thing worth mentioning is that tech could also influence ES and the S&P 500. Look at the setup on NQ. As we touch this resistance, we like to reject here. But we need to break this to be bullish. If we manage to somehow break past this, we could try to break out higher for 25,000 plus. I want to see 25,400 to break to be bullish, but if we lose 25,184, we're looking for the lower 25,000s, and that could drag us right back down. So we'll see how it goes. As we're getting a rejection here, we could be dipping to 25,000 or below, so be very mindful of that. On Bitcoin, we're also range bound. Right here, we have resistance at 109,000, support at 106,000. We're going to see if we touch this and reject, so be very patient. For Tesla, we're making lower highs right here. We could be dipping back down towards 440 to 436, and then we're going to see if we bounce, and then we're going to see if we get some kind of rebound. For now, some kind of move like this could be coming, but none of this matters. It does not matter what Tesla does. Technically speaking, it looks more bullish. We have an inverse head and shoulders, and the odds do favor trying to go higher. But I would still be very careful because it depends on earnings, right? Technical analysis is not sufficient for Tesla. What matters is also going to be earnings. Earnings will either dump this or pump it. Technicals do favor the upside, but we'll see just to be safe, so be very unbiased. For Nvda, we have 182.34 as our resistance and 178.6 is our support. We're making lower highs right here, so we're favoring consolidation and dip lower towards 178, so we'll have to see how it goes. Apple's dipping right here, could be dipping to about 216.258, and we'll see what happens after that. On AMD, it might be retesting 234.8. If it doesn't hold, it's dipping lower. Could be retesting like 232 if that fails us. Coinbase is on a bit of a downtrend. We have resistance at 337 and support down here at 325. So it might kind of pop here and continue to fall. It's on a bit of a downtrend. Amazon rejected here. We're looking for support at 218 and resistance at 220. We're stuck in the middle. It might bounce a bit near 220 before it dips lower. Meta is in the middle. We need to hold above 733 to break out higher, but if we can't, it's going to dip to 725. So this is the make or break level. We're just kind of shopping right here. So if we hold above 733, I could see an attempt for 738 or above. But if we reject off it, we're looking for 725. So watch that very closely. Google's favoring 260 plus for some upside. Microsoft is going to be favoring 525. And then Oracle is also favoring some downside for the lower 270s. And then finally, the VIX is at support at 17.4, and we ended up bouncing off this a bit. Will we continue to break out higher on the VIX, or do we just reject? If it bounces off this red line here, that's going to be a sign that, it's about to see a bounce, and that could be a bearish signal for the markets. We've been bouncing off the red line before, so we'll see if that ends up happening or not. Anyways, that's it for my video, guys. Thank you all so much for listening. SPY and the QQQ are very indecisive. They're just choppy right now. The QQQ is showing a bit more weakness than SPY this morning, but until we see confirmation of direction, we're going to be very unbiased and see which way we end up going. Also, remember, we have Tesla's earnings after market close. That's going to be a big factor for tech, and we'll see how it goes. I wish you all nothing but the best, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you for listening, and peace out.